Well, hello there. I thought I would do a quick demonstration of how I do a finish on this top. I'm going to be using Rubio Monocoat Oil Wax plus the hardener. It's a very simple way to have a nice finish, and there's not a whole lot that you need in order to make it work. I'm gonna go over that really quick, and then we'll get started on the video. So you're obviously going to need the Rubio Monocoat Oil Plus 2C itself. I'm using the Pure tint. And you're going to need the hardener that goes along with it. Now it will harden without the hardener, but it just takes significantly longer. So that's up to you on that one. I also recommend having a pair of gloves, because this stuff can get a little messy. I use a syringe to help me do the mixing. That way I don't have to use all of it. I'm actually only going to use half of this. I recommend having some type of stir stick, a way to spread the oil once you mix it onto the surface, and also some type of abrasive. So this is just like a little scrub pad. The only other thing that I would recommend is having some type of container to actually put the product in to mix it. And that's all you need. I should also mention you're going to need some paper towels in order to wipe off the surface after you've let it sit for 5 to 10 minutes. Actually, I think it's 15. I mean, as long as you've let it sit for a while. So what I'm going to be using are these Scott's blue paper towels, but you can use any type of paper towel as long as you have something that can absorb the oil. So I'm going to start mixing them, and something you want to keep in mind is your ratios. So you're going to do 3 parts of component A to 1 part component B, which is your accelerator. So in my case, there's 100 milliliters in this little accelerator bottle. I'm only going to be using half of it, so 50 milliliters. Which means I'm going to need 150 milliliters of the component A. So 150 of A mixing with 50 of B is your 3-to-1 ratio. Then I'm going to mix those together. So to keep things from contaminating so I can use it later, I'm never going to use the same syringe to pull from both of these, because you could end up with hardener in here and it could ruin the entire batch, or vice versa. So what I'm going to do is draw 150 milliliters with this syringe out of A, and this cup here has it's graduated, so right there's 50 milliliters. It's approximately, and you don't have to have it exactly 3-to-1, it even says that in the directions. So I'm going to dump in 50 milliliters of this into this cup, and then mix in 150 of this into it as well. Here we go. That looks pretty darn close to me. So I'll save this for later. And I went ahead and already opened this up with a screwdriver, so I can just pop the top off here. And now we're going to drop 150 milliliters. Conveniently enough, this thing is 150 milliliters. So that's pretty sweet. I don't know if you can hear my dogs, but they're having a conniption right now. I don't even know if I need this tip on here, to be honest. Let's just draw up the 150. I always go a little bit past, because see how there's a little bit of air in there, and then you can just press it out to your 150. We're pretty much there. So now I'm going to add this into here, trying not to make a mess. Hopefully you can see this. I'll move back a little bit. There we go. Now you could save this syringe for later and reuse it, but I typically don't recommend doing that because it can get kind of gummy. And another thing that you want to keep in mind with this stuff, it's flaxseed oil and it can spontaneously combust. So specifically with your rags and other things, when you're done using it, you don't want to just automatically throw it into a trash can. You want to make sure that you let it sit out for at least a day into the open air in an area where it can't ignite or be around an ignition source. So we'll go ahead and put the lid back on this. And we'll mix this up real good. You want to make sure it mixes thoroughly, otherwise you'll have parts that don't have the hardener, throughout. So you want a nice homogeneous mixture. Probably mix it for a few minutes, and then once we're done mixing it all we have to do is pour it on and scrape it over the surface. And then we'll buff it in. Now that it's thoroughly mixed, you literally just pour it on and use this little scraper or squeegee, I guess you call it, to cover it over the surface. This stuff is insane how well it covers. So I'm not only gonna do this part, but once I'm done and I get it all wiped off, I'm gonna flip it over and do the other side as well as the edges. And I'll probably still have plenty left over. I probably could have used 25 milliliters, but there's no harm in having a little extra. So here we go. You literally just go through here and do a little pour all around the surface. Set this cup off to the side in case we need it here in a minute. This buffer will come in here in a minute, but you just want to spread it all around the surface. And something else I didn't mention, but you want to make sure that you prep the surface that you're actually going to be applying this to. And by that I mean you want to make sure it's sanded and thoroughly cleaned off. So you want to blow it all off. You want to wipe it down thoroughly clean. You don't want any dust or anything like that on the surface prior to putting this stuff on. Not that it's any different than doing any other finisher, but the best finisher in the world won't do you any good if you don't have a good medium upon which you're applying the product. So I used, what is it called? It was mineral spirits. Hold on a second. Yeah, so after I sanded it all down to the grit that I liked, the smoothness that I liked, I blew it all off, and then I cleaned the whole surface with mineral spirits. They do, like Rubio does make their own cleaner, and I'm sure it works great, but I've never had an issue using mineral spirits, and I'm sure it's cheaper than what you would have to pay to get Rubio Monocoat's fancy brand. This product isn't exactly cheap, but it does go a very long way, so I can't say that it's overpriced really, because as long as you divvy it out like in smart ratios, it'll last you a long time. So you want to make sure you coat every surface here. I'm waiting to do the edges towards the last part of it because I don't want to have a whole bunch of drippage going on. It's never fun. And as you can see, with that pour, which is roughly half of the cup, I have more than enough to cover the entire surface here. But there's no rush here. You have plenty of time to work with this. You really want it to soak in to the wood. Obviously don't take days, but you do want it to soak in after you've buffed it for a good, I don't know, I'd say 10 to 15 minutes. And comparing it to like staining and other methods of finishing, it's pretty easy. They claim you only need one coat, but in my experience, yes, you can get away with one, but it definitely looks better after you've done like a light sanding and a second coat. I think we've more or less got the surface covered at this point. What I'm gonna do with this extra that I have is kind of soak up my little sponge here, and I'm gonna go around the edge. And as you're working it, you could see it like absorbing in, and I just pass over it again. Just let it get soaked in there. Hopefully I'm not boring you guys to death. I think you more or less get the idea. I'll probably speed this up so you guys aren't falling out of your chair in terms of boredom. But as you can see, it's really not that complicated. Just about anybody can do this. And that means a lot coming from me, because I don't have any, major experience with this type of stuff other than learning it, doing it hands-on, which is pretty much how I learn most things. No training, just go for it, screw up a lot, and learn as you go. All right, I'm pretty happy with that. So I'm gonna set this off to the side, and then we're gonna start buffing it in. And there's really no rhyme or reason to any of this. And once I get enough on the sponge, I'll start buffing the edges as well and letting it soak in. A lot of the times, by the time you get done, if you buff thoroughly, it'll have taken you 10 or 15 minutes anyway. And so you can go almost right to the wiping off stage. Of course, there's no harm in letting it sit a little bit longer, letting it soak into the wood. I'm gonna hit my edges real quick in case we have any potential drips. And I'm seeing a few of them. Now, another thing to note with this too is it does take time to cure. So I think it's like a full week before it's fully cured. And they recommend at least, I think it's 1 to 3 days before you put anything on it. I'd have to look that up to verify, but it's at least a couple days. I imagine if you had a buffer, like an automated one, like a car buffer, this would go a lot faster. All right, gonna hit the edge one more time, and I'm gonna call this good. So we're gonna let it sit for a little while, and we'll come back to it after it's had time to soak. So good, let's say at least 10 minutes. Let it sit for at least 10. And then you'll come back and wipe it all off. So we'll be right back. All right, so it's been about 15 minutes. Now I'm gonna start wiping everything down. As I mentioned before, I'm using these Scott's shop towels. But you can use kind of any towel you want. You ultimately want to make sure you wipe off everything. Like you keep wiping it to the point to where, you see the residue here. Well, basically you don't want anything showing up. That's how thoroughly you want to wipe all that off. And it doesn't matter as far as how you wipe it off, like pattern or whatever. Just make sure you get everything off of there. So I usually go for the most wet surfaces first and try to absorb as much of that as possible. You're also evening out the oil as you're spreading it, so it'll give it a more clean finish at the end too. So as a bonus benefit, I usually fold my towel into 4 little sections, so that way I can just flip it over and easily tell. Because this is the first section. Now I'm on the second, but I also have this part of the towel available. Not that you need to be super conservative with your towels, or maybe you do, I don't know. I don't think they're that expensive. Oh, I didn't mention I also grabbed a new pair of gloves. That's something else you got to keep in mind. You don't want to be putting more oil and you're trying to get rid of it by having oily gloves. On your first few wipes, it's okay to use and abuse the first towel but you definitely want to switch towels for the finish because you want to make sure that you're leaving nothing left from that oil. So your towel should come up clean with each wipe. All right, so this towel's pretty much spent. So I'm gonna grab another one and set this one on the ground. Like I said before, it can spontaneously combust. So make sure you don't put it in your trash can with lots of papers because it could catch on fire. And I'm assuming you don't want your house to catch on fire. I know I don't want mine to. It can seem a little tedious, but it is the process. But compared to other finishes, it's pretty fast. So you can see on here, it's almost clean. So we're all pretty much near the end of this cleaning off session. We'll give it a few more wipe downs and we'll see where we're at. I'm pretty happy with that. So I'm gonna call this one good. I'll take these gloves off and you can have a little look-see. Obviously it's got a cure, but this is the initial look. Right after we put the finish on it. I think it looks pretty good. As I mentioned, I am going to do the other side. This is actually, believe it or not, the bottom of this table, this TV console top. So the top should look even better. But that is how you put on Rubio Monocoat. It's pretty simple, doesn't take too long. It is a little on the pricey end of things, it's expensive. But if you factor in that it lasts a really long time, it's probably about the same as other finishes. So I think it comes out ahead overall in terms of convenience. Hopefully that helped you learn how to do Rubio Monocoat. If you were on the fence whether or not you were going to try it, this hopefully made it seem a little bit easier because it really is this easy. Not hard at all. So good luck on your projects out there. Let me know what you think of this one in the comments down below, and I will catch you in the next one. See ya.